till shade is gone,
till water is gone,
into the shadow with teeth bared,
screaming defiance with the last breath,
to spit in Sightblinder's eye on the last day.
by my honor and the light.
My life will be a dagger for Sightblinder's heart.
Until the last day. To Shyle Ghul itself.
This is A Dagger for Sightblinder, a podcast focused on all things Wheel of Time, with your hosts,
Sarah Lucas
and Adam Tricola. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Dagger for Sightblinder. May you find shade this day. Sarah, how's the shade situation in Canada?
It's fairly shady. How is yours, Adam?
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's funny. It's funny when you call me Adam here because we just finished making our other thing for the other game. Mm-hmm. You have to call me Zareth over there. So
I know. I have to switch hats. It's mentally challenging.
Yeah, some things can be mentally challenging for some people. So
yeah, well, you get it easy. You just have to call me Sarah on both of them. So
it's true. That's true. Though I do have to do the intro for both of them, and I have to change from my intro. It's a very similar intro to what my main account, my YouTube account is. Mm-hmm. So
you're fine.
No, you're fine.
Everything's fine.
Dick handled.
Oh boy. All right.
Yeah. So all right. We're trying to wrap this one up kind of quickly today. We're on a time frame ish, but the good news is we don't have any news for Wheel of Time show because we didn't look.
Right. That's my bad. I forgot.
Well, I could have too, but
we both forgot.
Yeah.
Oops. So maybe there'll be extra news next week.
Hopefully. Who knows?
Or not.
I know. I feel like season 3 has been announced or something, and people are like,
"Oh my gosh, that would be awful."
Well, I want season 3, so.
No, I know. I just mean it would be awful on the week that we're like, "Yeah, we forgot."
Yeah, I know what you mean. Just being fascist is all. So, all right. So spoilers on this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we should plug our go visit our Discord server and stuff, guys.
Yeah, all the links they're all in the description. They're all there.
Yeah. Watch our stuff on YouTube if you want. Instead, if you want to see the visual format, you can see us just sitting there,
talking or not talking.
Yeah.
Cool. So spoilers.
Oh yeah, you can talk about spoilers.
All right. So we're going to cover in the Dragon Reborn chapters 20 to 29. So spoilers particularly for those chapters, but basically anything in the books before that. So the first 2 books, anything in the Dragon Reborn leading up to these and the show, just in case. You never know. So just all the spoilers.
All the spoilers.
Yep. All right. Shall we?
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite scenes. In Wheel of Time. I would say it's a top 5 scene, certainly.
All right.
And so I'm excited to talk about it.
I realized that it was in this chunk as I was getting once the chapter started, I was like, oh, it's in this one. So I'm curious.
Yeah, so we have my favorite scene coming up, and or it's not my very favorite actually, but it's such a good microcosm. The thing about this book is Matt's just kind of been waiting on the wings. It's like we've had a sick, a pale imitation of what Matt actually is, and now we get to start seeing him making up ground in a big way. He's got to catch up because all these other characters are well developed, and he's just been developed as a whiny, kind of an obnoxious trickster when he can actually find the energy to be a trickster. But we don't know anything about him other than he's kind of annoying.
Well, and I mean, so to be fair, that's actually pretty accurate because just as a person in general, you're not doing any self growth or anything like that. Like, I wouldn't expect that from him while he was sick, like while he's going through all this stuff with the dagger beforehand. Um,
Right.
so it's kind of fitting that he has to catch up in general now.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. I do regret, like I'm really hoping that in the show actually that they like he got rid of the dagger after a little bit, like pretty quickly, actually relatively quickly. And I hope
Mhm.
that I hope that they're just done with the dagger now in the show. Like, okay, he was affected for a couple scenes, that's fine, that's accurate to the
Mhm.
to the how the books went, to the at least the feel of how the books went, and now we can just move on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fancy.
All right. So let's dive in then.
Okay.
Okay, so in chapter 20, visitations. So this is kind of exactly where we left off before. So he's thinking he's going to leave. That's Matt's point of view, and Celine's come in into his room, and she's just being super cryptic, like you said last time. He thinks she's Aes Sedai, all this fun stuff,
Mhm.
and he's pretty much decided that he needs to leave ASAP. He needs to get out of this wherever he is. Um, and then Swan and Leanne come in, and they are basically like, you can't leave. Like, the guards know who you are. They know what you look
Mhm.
like. They know not to let you leave. Um, and they have this whole discussion with him, and then he admits that he did blow the horn of Valir. And
Yeah.
Swan but eventually explains to him that he's now the only one that's going to be able to summon the heroes because he did that. And like, as long as he's alive, he is the one that is linked to
Yeah.
the horn. So
Sorry,
hey,
Matt, you're stuck.
yeah, you're stuck. It's a really great point too that she brings that up, and it's like, as long as you're alive, like, this is what's going to happen. So you can't try to escape this. And it's even better when you think of the last few chapters where they were trying to decide whether or not they should heal him.
Right. Well, I did like the kind of Celine's like, they're not going to tell you anything. Like, they're just
Mhm.
going to lie to you. Like, you should just listen to me. Like, you should just go with me, and or like, work with me instead, because you can't trust him. And then Swan like kind of defeats her with honesty in a lot of ways.
Right.
Like, not that she was super forthcoming about it,
Mhm.
but Matt kind of like mentally tips his hat to Swan a little bit. He's like, well, she wasn't as quite as bad as I thought she was going to be. Like, she's still bad. Obviously I don't want to be used by him, like
Mhm.
but I liked that Swan, like, in a lot of ways, all of this madness and this, that, like, we'll get into all of this crazy Aes Sedai, like, that all of their various plotting and things that, they're half truths and the
Mhm.
morass of that madness, and we'll explore it, and that's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. But it's always refreshing when, like, Robert Jordan weaves in every once in a while, someone just tells the truth,
Mhm.
and it just destroys everything. Like in a good way, like it just dominates everything because people aren't prepared for it. It's just like such a powerful tool that's kind of neglected in favor of manipulation.
Right. But and it also, to me, just speaks really highly of Swan's like capability of knowing to read a situation and read a room. And the way to win Matt over, like, you can't trick a trickster. So why would you try to, like, and it's just going to cause more harm than good in the end, right? Because if she had tried to trick him and manipulate him and he caught her, now
Mhm.
everything moving forward is tainted.
Right. It's like, well, should she just have him murdered now? Because he's
Mhm.
not going to do anything. He's not going to trust her a single hair.
Right. Exactly. Whereas if she gives him this honesty now and he recognizes that if she does need to in the future, you know, misguide him a little bit, he isn't immediately going to assume that she is, theoretically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun. I like, I like that exchange a lot, actually. She's like,
Mhm.
yeah, we're gonna use you, boy, obviously.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like, what did you expect? Kind of.
it's great. Okay. So the next chapter is A World of Dreams. So now we're going back to Egwene's point of view.
Mhm.
And so this is when Egwene's, left, and she's going basically to go visit Varen in her study to go get anything that all the information that she's got for her on what Swan and the Almerlin seat wants her to do. So Varen gives her all this info that she's got on Leandra and the Black Aja, the Char Angriel that were stolen.
Her
Just
room is so messy that it
mhm,
has mice in it, and she keeps an owl to kill the
mhm,
mice. I love I
mhm.
love that, except doesn't the owl poop everywhere?
It just adds to the mess,
Yeah,
which
or
would, I
maybe.
mean, like add to the mice making nests in your
Hmm.
room. Yeah, it's just a good time.
It's a really gross endless loop.
Yep, yep, fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, but
But
she
it's
does.
charming in a way because she's so everything's just so dusty. Like she's got a Trolloc skull in there. It's just
Mhm.
this very characterful mess.
It's almost kind of fitting too, because I picture her as a not scatterbrain, that's probably the wrong term, but just trying to get through all of this knowledge and all of this information and organize it and
Mhm.
compartmentalize it mentally, but then also have you know physical things that she's got to organize as well. So just it, it,
Mhm.
it feels like it makes sense that her room would be in disarray.
Yeah, well, this is also a trope in fantasy, actually,
Mhm.
of like a scholarly, messy wizard.
Yeah.
Like you have like Merlin, who's got his crazy strewn,
Mhm.
stacks of books everywhere, and you have the Michael J. Sullivan series. I don't know if you've read it. It's a slightly obscure. I guess he's getting bigger and bigger. His name is, but like there's a wizard in that has a bunch of in the Royce and Hadrian series that you walk in and there's just books everywhere. It's a huge mess, and
Mhm.
like there's a ton of different tropes of wizards are also scholars and therefore they're messy.
Right.
So we
Exactly.
get to and the Amerlin, it used to be a fishmonger, so she's not going to be the one to be messy. So I guess Varen's the next best thing.
So Varen's the messy one. But she does, in all of this mess, she does have a twisted stone ring that she gives to Egwene.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and explains that, it is a Tarangrial, and it was worn by the last dreamer, the last known dreamer in the tower. And since Egwene may be a dreamer, it seems fitting that, she gets this. Um, and she just warns her like of the danger of going into the world of dreams, and then Egwene goes on her way. And then we get a little bit of a Varen point of view at the end of this chapter where, she is kind of gathering all of her notes in this messy area, and she's got notes from Corianin, who
Mm-hmm.
was the last known dreamer, and she's decided not to give these notes to Egwene, which I found interesting. She's withholding this information because for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason she's decided Egwene should not have it yet.
Yeah, yeah. Varen's such an interesting character to me,
She's
especially having
so
read the series.
interesting.
Already, but she makes a lot of really interesting choices, and she's always gonna be popping up in different unexpected places
Mhm.
here and there in the series as well. And like this withholding of information is just very interesting. Like she's like, man, should I just burn this? I don't know. Like she's actually thinking about getting rid of all these studies, but then
Mhm.
she's like, well, I can't destroy knowledge, but at the same time she's not actually like it, if you decide not to destroy the knowledge, but then you don't actually let anyone access it, like isn't it the same thing?
Right.
Like it's kind of just her justification of the situation, I guess.
Yeah, I could see it, like, I don't know. I guess if she had destroyed it, then it's permanently done. Whereas if she's just holding on to it, she can eventually hand it over eventually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Doesn't matter.
All right. So in the next chapter, in The Price of the Ring, chapter 22, Mcqueen leaves Varen's study. Obviously, she's got these notes that she's given her. She's got this ring. And she ends up meeting Sheriam in the hallway, and she's like, oh, you're gonna go and we're gonna go get you tested downstairs, and takes her right to it. Which Egwene is now worried about, because she has all of this stuff, all of these notes and this ring, and she essentially has to leave them behind when she goes in to do her testing, and leave them behind in a room with other Aes Sedai there that could potentially like look through her things and see these. And because she's now started the test, she can't back out. So I mean, she could, but it's not wise. So she ends up deciding to do it, and she goes through these arches, and the first one is going to show you your fear of the past, and then the present and the future. So she goes through them, and she sees, and this first arch shows her life if she was married to Rand and she's got a daughter, and eventually it's the same idea where the way back comes but once. The arch appears and she has to leave, and
be steadfast.
So she ends up leaving, and then in the second one we've got the Palace of Andors in ruins, and Rand is pinned under the rubble, and he just can't like get free, and he's asking her to kill him because otherwise he would channel and end up going mad in order to free himself. So he would rather her kill him. And then the arch appears, and then the third one, she is the Amarylline seat in it, which is interesting, and her keeper in this is from the Green Aja, which means that Egwene would have been Green Aja. And in this one, she's being shown Rand again, and they want her to gentle Rand, and she's refusing to do it once the arch ends up showing up again. I think it's in the third one where she tries to channel, if I remember correctly, because there's like a battle of sorts that kind of ends up happening.
Yeah, she tries to channel.
Which she should not do.
Right, apparently.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, these testing things, like these chapters are I'm always like, can we just be done? I'm sick of.
Is it like the dreams for you?
A little. They're better than that, really, but they're a little bit like, I hate are these situations like she can't remember, she's just fuzzy minded, she's like, what's going on, why? I remember some things but not everything. Like it's just so distracting, and so it's so unconcrete. I guess it's not concrete, it's just I hate the fuzziness of it. It drives me a little crazy.
I think I just enjoy the fact that you can see a little bit more into these characters, like their mindset through it. But yeah, I can understand why you would find them annoying.
Oh, well, so there are actually a lot of interesting things, just there are a lot of hints at things that she is potentially going to face and stuff. Some of it's red herring, and other stuff is like, oh, cool. Like some of it's like, wow, that doesn't happen for a really long time. But like Robert Jordan clearly has certain things planned from the very start, which is cool. Like, so there are cool parts, having these little glimmers of the future. It's great. It's just, I don't know. I just find myself distracted by this particular type of literary craft.
Right. Which is fair. Totally fair. Okay, so since you find yourself distracted by it, we can just move on to the next one. I personally find that there's not a whole ton of info in that chapter.
Well, so yeah, I guess the biggest thing for me, honestly, isn't the she goes through the arches and stuff. She almost just dies apparently because of the feedback, because she had
Yes,
she
the
had the
ring.
ring, and it was close to it. No, none of them knew that she had a Terangriel right
Mhm.
there, and none of them realized it. So she's just hanging out with that knowledge. And I think the biggest thing to me right there was how immediately, like, she's been asked to hunt the black aja, and she just immediately just doesn't trust anyone, and she feels so trapped. How crappy would that be?
Mhm.
Like, imagine going home and thinking your spouse might kill you.
Right, which is
Like,
terrifying.
I like, maybe like, this person I've known and trusted for however long is just like this awful, like, murderer who's just like has this malevolent spirit, and they just hide it really well. Like,
Mhm.
if you can't go home and feel safe, and I know that is a situation that, like, some people do live with day to day, and I, like, truly, I think you have my sympathy. You know, you need to feel safe. That's an important, that's like a really basic part of the
Mhm.
hierarchy of needs. Like, and she's this novice. She's powerless in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
She's the lowest rung on the ladder, and she can't trust anyone.
I I think honestly part of the reason why she's able to flip so quickly is because she did follow Leandrian the first time and end up going to Falm and getting,
Hmm.
you know, captured and all this stuff. Like she did have
Yeah.
all of these things happen. I think it would be different if she had just stayed in the tower the whole time and then was told, "Oh, there's like Black Audra here, and you need to help me find them." Like it would be completely different because she hadn't had that
Yeah.
experience. So right away, she's already thrust into it. Like she's not a bystander anymore. She's not on the outside looking in. Like she's experienced it already, and it immediately makes you want to flip that switch that you're not trusting anyone. I
Oh, yeah.
honestly wouldn't be shocked if Egwene wasn't given the task to help find Black Aja. If she still would, like, it would not shock me if she was in the tower going about her day-to-day life and still not trusting people in general.
Right.
Like I would expect that from her.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
It's just an interesting, you know but she puts her life at risk, because she's like, I can't tell anyone about this ring that I have,
Mhm.
that Varen gave me, and I can't, like, it's actually harming her in some, like, substantial ways, putting her at risk.
Mhm.
Where, I mean, there are things that, if any of the women who are there are Black Aja, then it's wise for her, even if they're not, if she doesn't know, then it's wise for her to keep silent. And yet, like, it causes issues that,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. All right.
in in a way, it's a microcosm of how living like a paranoid life
Yeah,
is, like, can be self-defeating in a lot of ways. So,
it really
anyways,
is.
yeah, we can move on.
All right. Okay, so chapter 23, sealed. So the Egwene basically comes out of this and Swan's there and completes the ceremony to make Egwene one of the accepted. And Egwene then eventually, Alana's there and she asks her about the Green Aja and can tell us it's completely obviously related to her testing the last arch that she did go through. Um, and then she ends up leaving and she goes back to Nynaeve's room. Elaine's there and they all are just in their emotions and upset about this. They've been tested and accepted and crying.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It felt like a filler. I find it interesting she's asking about the Green Aja, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, you have Alana, who she's in the show as well. Remember,
Yeah.
she's the she's the influential green
Mhm.
there. And yeah, like you, so this is like our first introduction to Alana, who ends up becoming somewhat important for other reasons that we can't go into right now, of course. But uh yeah, she's interesting as well. So anyways, like I love her sense of honor here, if that actually is what it is, like if you can
Right.
actually trust it, but she's like, oh my gosh, like I should have put an end to this. I owe you a debt. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do the dishes, and I'm
Mhm.
gonna,
Yeah. And try to take part of that punishment from her.
yeah, which I thought was just really interesting. So
Mhm.
I mean, um but it just adds another layer of suspicion to her.
Yeah, that's true. Is she
She's
doing it because she's actually a good person, or is she doing it to cover something up?
right.
Right.
Who knows?
Right. Well, you know.
I know. I'm one of the people who knows. Yep.
All right. So this uh chapter 24, scouting and discoveries.
All right.
So we're
Now we're
back to
getting
Matt.
somewhere.
Now we're getting somewhere. We're back to Matt. So he basically wakes up in his room and he's like, I gotta think of how to get out of here. And he decides to go look around where he's at and go scouting. He
Mhm.
learns that there are white cloaks on either side of the river. He learns that the guards definitely do know who he is and he can't leave. And then he runs into Elsa Grinwell. Um,
Mhm.
and he's surprised to see her, and she is kind of rude to him. She's pretty harsh. And
Yeah, and he's like, "What the hell?"
yeah. So, which is interesting. I thought it was a little bit, I don't know, it was really off-putting to read or hear read to me, that she was acting that way.
Well, but you have further insight later
Yes.
about
It
that
yes.
interaction.
It's still though very like, you're kind of like, oh, you know, just felt weird.
Right.
Anyway, so he does eventually go though, and he finds Matt finds Gawain and Galad. Um, and this is just your favorite part, but he makes this wager that he's gonna fight them both at the same time. And it's 2-1, 2-1. So obviously the odds should be 2-1. And
Well, yeah. So
yeah,
they talk down to him
yeah.
though, like they're trying to be agreeable, and they're generally pretty polite. They're pretty nice, but he's like, yeah, I've got my quarterstaff. He like makes an offhanded comment, and and they're like, oh yeah, well that's cute. That's cute.
Mhm.
Like, cool. We don't want trouble with you, but like, let's be honest here. Like, you're no match for us. Like, we're warder trained badasses. Like,
Right.
you can't, like, stop boasting, kind of thing. Like, but politely, I kind of, you know
Yeah, I know.
and he's
But
just like, no, like, okay, let's make some money then, I guess.
I mean, he's got to make some money. He doesn't have any.
Yeah.
So it is polite, but also it does have like this arrogant tone to it, like how they are treating him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he you know wants to fight them, and 2-1
Yeah.
odds.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the master at arms there,
mhm.
like the head warder, is like, all right, well, I'll cover it. If they're not going to pay for it, I'll still do it. Like, let's all watch the boy with the stick, you know
Right. Get
and
beat up and whatever.
or maybe teach a lesson here.
Mhm.
So yeah, uh I just I just think it's cool. I mean, what did you
So
think the first time? So I think I told you that chapter was my favorite.
you told me that it wasn't his first point of view chapter. All I knew was that it wasn't his first point of view chapter, but it would be his second. So I knew when it started that this was it.
Okay.
Um, and I was trying to figure out why it was your favorite. So when you told me what's your favorite, I assumed it had more to do with like the storyline, and I think it's just your favorite because of the characteristics that are displayed from that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess we could talk about why I like it after. We should actually say what all the things that happen. So yeah, he finally tricks, I don't know, tricks him, but he finally, like, you know, manipulates the situation so that they're going to fight him.
Right, exactly.
And so then they fight, and and eventually Galad is like, let's put an end to this farce, I think is his line. And Matt just like wallops the hell out of him. And like one of the most awesome parts is like he's won, and then he's like, he hasn't been struck, he's fine, but he's so weak because he's still sick from the dagger stuff that he's like almost falling over just because of that. Like, it's not even that they did anything to him.
He's just so drained from the dagger and everything, and having to rest and heal. Yeah, which is really nice to have that tied in there. It just makes a nice little, paints the picture nicely, I think.
Yeah. And then everyone's just glaring at him, like, because all the women think that Galad is so wonderful, and of course, why couldn't Galad win?
And they're all concerned that he's hurt, and like,
I know, it's funny. But yeah, like I don't know. So why do you think I like it?
I'm assuming,
like, why? Go ahead.
I'm assuming you like it because of the lesson taught, and because of, like, I don't want to say the arrogance displayed, but it does feel like they were a little bit arrogant and just immediately jumped to conclusions and acted like they knew the answer already and knew what the outcome would be without even, recognizing that maybe their opponent, I shouldn't say that he's an opponent, but in this case, their opponent would have a skill set different from theirs, or, just because he doesn't look like them or have the same training as them doesn't mean that he wouldn't be as good or not better.
Yeah. So I do like, I like that this is a lesson in humility, right? Humility is one of my favorite topics to discuss. It's not something that I'm especially great at personally. I do try, but humility is so important in life, to be able to say, like, okay, well, I don't understand what you're saying, I don't like, that doesn't make much sense to me, but at the same time, like, I shouldn't just assume that my way of thinking is the best way.
Right.
Like, my approach might be flawed. If I don't know about it, maybe it would be better if I just admitted it,
Right.
And I also, the other part of it that I really like is that I like the idea of being underestimated and just totally surprising everyone. Like, that's one of my favorite things is, you get, if someone assumes something about you and then you're able to just prove them wrong, it's nice. I've been in that situation a lot of times in my life where people are like, wow, I had no idea you were capable of that. I'm like, well, I'm glad that you, I was able to, and that's pride, of course. I'm like, well, I'm glad I proved you wrong, but
Thanks for
like,
coming out.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just that whole exchange of, and Matt wasn't even being arrogant about it. Like, he pushed for it because he just wanted money. He was just being pragmatic the whole time. He's like, yeah, I think I can make some money, so let's just make it happen.
Yeah, why not? I mean, two birds, one stone.
Yeah. This also establishes him as a very capable fighter.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you realize that when Hamer's there and he gives Matt his quarterstaff back after all of this, and there's no like admonishing or anything really that's done. It's more of a like, here you go on your way type thing. Take your coins.
Yeah. Well, and he does turn it into a lesson. He's like, who was the greatest weapon master of all time? And they all know his name, and he's like, the only time he was ever defeated was by a farmer with a quarterstaff.
Which is really, really fitting.
Yeah.
Full circle moment.
Yeah, and they're like, that quarterstaff really remains relevant for Matt for like as long as he's around.
Awesome.
Yeah. So anyways, one of my very favorites, but we can move on.
Are you okay with moving on? I know it's your favorite.
Oh, and it would be maybe different if you liked it as much as I did, but
I did enjoy it. I think I just expected more storyline. I could see why you enjoy. I understand why it's one of your favorites.
Sure. Well, yeah, I think it's funny because as I've progressed, as I've continued to read a lot of different stories and consume literature, I used to really, really love the action scenes a whole lot. Like those are my favorite. And now I usually, I'm just like, okay, yes, you're fighting, like there are repercussions. It's fine. I want to hear more about the implications of that fight more than like he jumped and he twisted and he, did all this stuff. But some of my very favorite scenes in books are still just these acts of of extreme, I don't know, these situations where people are unlikely to succeed and yet still do. Still some of my favorite scenes. So I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thing to me as I've progressed through, and now I don't care as much about action scenes in books. I still, some of my favorite scenes are still action scenes. So I don't know. I'll have to figure that out.
I like it.
We can move on.
All right. Okay. So next chapter, questions. So we're back with the girls. So Elaine is going over all of these notes that Egwene's been given from Varen. And Egwene is basically trying to sort out and figure out if some dreams have meaning and other dreams don't. And Nynaeve is just frustrated because that's Nynaeve.
Yeah.
She's frustrated by these notes. And Elaine notes, and I found this was really interesting. She notes that there is no pattern in the Aes Sedai that they know are Black Aja. There's no pattern in their birthdays, what Aja they're from, what nationality they are. There's no pattern to be found, and that because there is no pattern, the pattern is that there is no pattern, which means that there are more Black Aja in the tower. And I just thought it was like this really interesting thing. Anyway, so they learn that many of the stolen ter'angreal have to do with dreaming, which were last studied, and they were last studied by Corianin.
Of course.
And yeah, so then while this is happening, Elsa, she ends up, I think it's Elsa that comes and gets
Elsa Grinwell comes. So
she comes and gets Egwene and is like, oh, Swan sent me, or the Amarlin sent me, and there's stuff in the storeroom that you need to come and see, and takes her, and they ends up having this really weird interaction with Elsa and this woman that's in silver and white.
So Elsa just like runs away. Like she's like, hey, the Amarlin says to go down here and look at this stuff. And then she runs away, and Egwene chases her. Yeah. And but when she finally catches up, she thinks she catches up, then it's a beautiful woman. Yeah.
In
Who do you
silver
think
and
it
white.
is?
Right. And then it's the same thing here, where they have this weird interaction, and Egwene ends up at the end of it, she's gonna go back to her room, and she kind of turns back to where Elsa or this woman were, and they're gone. There's no sign of them.
Yeah. So she's like a crazy person, like looking
Mm-hmm.
in rooms. Where are they?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So do you know who the woman is?
I'm assuming this is Celine again,
Yeah, I think yes.
right? Like
Yeah.
I'm safe to assume this.
I think that it's heavily implied, though
Mhm.
they do it in a way that is they make it like not 100% because Egwene has never seen her personally.
Yeah, yeah.
So she doesn't
So
know to like be on her guard because we've already established that Celine is Lanfear.
Lanfear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because out of the girls, so correct me if I'm misremembering, but out of the girls, it's only Min that's seen her, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Right. So yeah, I assumed it was her. But we're coming up on the point where I haven't read past. So
Okay.
we're coming up where I won't know anything. Anyway,
Nice.
yeah, but that's exactly it. So in the next chapter, in Behind a Lock, like Egwene's trying to find them. She's running through this hallway and opening the doors, and she can't find them. And Nynaeve's like, "Don't worry about it. Like, we'll just do it later." And the three of them head down to the storerooms. And this door is locked, so Nynaeve's, trying to make herself angry so that she can channel, and ends up breaking it open with a pry bar. But there are 13 bags inside. They're all labeled. They're all tied up, and all of them have things in them relating to Tyr. And so Nynaeve ends up believing that this is a bait or trap of some sort that was set for them. So yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I want to point out, which is it's a little sidetrack, but so I think that there's actually I think that we should be pronouncing Tyr, and I know that everyone else pronounces it like they pronounce it as Tyr, the show pronounces it as Tyr, but I think we should be calling it Ter. I think there's textual evidence for it. Yeah. Well, because the people who live there are called Terrans.
Oh, so that makes sense.
And so it seems like
Ter.
and the way it's spelled, like there's no question that it should be pronounced Terrans. So it seems to me like it's spelled Tear, which could be Tyr, obviously, but it could also, I like the idea of Ter, like the stone of Ter. Like I don't know, it just it evokes different imagery though.
It does. Tyr and Ter evoke very different imagery.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point it out early. I don't know if Robert Jordan, what his intent was. Maybe I bet that there are actually lectures that, like, I mean, he's gone to readings and stuff. He's probably said it himself, but at the end of the day, I don't really care what his intent is. I just think that in the text itself, it could provide some potentially interesting like view of things. That's all.
Okay, I'm gonna keep that in mind.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so the next chapter is Teleran Riyadh. I think I said that right.
I think so.
So the girls finish their chores, their punishments, and then they go back to Egwene's room, and Egwene is basically, she's going to try to go into this world of dreams, and she puts the ring around like a leather strap through it, wears it kind of like a necklace, and it's essentially touching her when she goes to sleep. So she's there, and Rand and Perrin are there. Rand's accusing her of being shadow spawn, and kind of is trying to attack her, so she ends up panicking and channels to leave so that she can get away from Rand as quickly as possible. Where Sylvie is there all of a sudden, and says that Egwene's got it all figured out, and she notices that this sword Kalendor is kind of levitating or behind Sylvie in a way. And just panicking that she doesn't know how to wake up. And when so I think Sylvie grabs the ring, but it ends up jolting Egwene awake, and she actually says like that hurts, like, which I thought was interesting because I was wondering if it was the ring being touched by somebody in the world of dreams that made her hurt, and that she was wearing it. But yeah, she ends up waking up, and she tells the girls everything, and they decide that in Tear is where the trap is set, and that's where Kalendor would be. And that they need to tell the Amyrlin that that's where they need to go. And Elaine wants to send a letter to her mom, and they, Nynaeve just remembers like Matt's here. Matt would be the perfect messenger for this letter.
Yeah, which sets up a really fun scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So
can I know, like, is it this ring that is giving her? Is this, or you don't want me to know? You
tell me. Ask us the full question.
Like, when Egwene was in this world of dreams, she was freaking out. She couldn't wake up. She didn't know how to wake up, how to get out of the world. Mm-hmm. And then Sylvie kind of grabbed and touched the ring.
Yeah, so
I'm assuming you would use, like, because she went into the world with the ring, you would use the ring to get out.
So it's, I guess it's probably a little unclear. Like, the world of dreams is, obviously it's a place you could visit. It's it's kind of insubstantial, but at the same time, it's a real place. And so, like, Sylvie is kind of just a weird presence here that I can't remember if she shows up more often, like if she's a bigger part of like even this book. I don't remember. I didn't get through the end of this book either before we kind of restarted reading this, and so I don't remember. But right now, the only way most people can access Tel'aran'rhiod is through some kind of ter'angreal like this,
right? And
so Sylvie almost certainly did like use a way, like she probably severed the connection between the ring and Egwene, which would then cast Egwene out. There's, it's like Hopper at some point, maybe it's a little later in this book, or maybe it's in a different one, but like Hopper is able to push Perrin out of the same place,
right? Which,
because like this is also called the wolf dream in Perrin's, like that, and that's, if that hasn't come up yet, it will come up very, very soon. And I don't think that's a spoiler, but yeah, this world of dreams, it, like, some people can get there naturally, like Perrin doesn't need anything to help him get there because he's got his wolf stuff. Right. But yeah, the ring is, yes. Sorry for the extended explanation, but
no, you're good. That's what I figured it was, but yeah. Cool. So yeah, like you said, this sets up a nice, fun scene. So, in the next chapter, A Way Out, the girls, they're like, we're gonna go visit Matt and get him to deliver this letter. And he's kind of going, not going along with it, but he's like, well, why would I do this? Like, what's in it for me? And Elaine's kind of like, well, I'm the daughter heir. And so, like, he's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. And it's amusing as well, because Egwene even acknowledges, like, he's not going to do it for that reason. Like, he needs something out of it for him to make it worthwhile for him to do it, which is great. And it's just such trickstery behavior.
Oh man, I loved it, like the way he like approached his discussion with them the whole time of, he adjusted the way he was going to talk to them, and he's like, oh man, okay, this isn't really working, I got to do something else. And he just wasn't letting them push him around and bully him all the time,
right? Yeah, it was just, it was fun, and you see this side of him, and then he does eventually admit that he can't leave the city, so like there's really nothing for him to do to deliver this, because the guards won't let him past it. So they make the decision that he should have one of these letters that the Amyrlin gave them, that lets them basically do as they please on her orders, so that he will be able to leave the city.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have a nice little reunion, and he ends up asking for a little bit of money, but they don't have any. So he's, gonna have to make his way without any money, figuring out where he's gonna make money and get there on his own.
Yeah, I did just like that he was able to, like, at the end of the day, they all care about each other, and it was a nice little nostalgia moment for all of them too.
It was, yeah. They
Of
have like this reunion and reminiscing, and
yeah, it's kind of nice because, and at the same time, I just like that he called them out on their shenanigans too, because Nynaeve's such a bully so much, so often, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Matt, blah blah blah," and he's just like, "I'm just not gonna stand for it." Like, cut it out, Nynaeve. Like, what do I get? What do I get out of it? Like, yeah. So, and at the end of the day, I can't blame him, really. I thought he came out ahead in the. I mean, I'm Matt biased, so I want him to come out ahead, but
that's true. You are.
Oh yeah, yeah. You'll see.
Fair. Okay, so the last chapter that we are going to talk about, unless you have anything else you want to add.
So he's got his letter from the Admiral.
He's got his letter.
He's ready.
He can do as he pleases. All right, so a trap to spring. The girls, they're in the kitchen now. They're doing their chores, and the Amyrlin goes down there, and this is just so brilliant. She accuses Elaine of saying something that she shouldn't have said, so that Elaine will basically be removed from the kitchens.
Because Elaine's still not technically part of,
right,
like the search.
Right. It is Egwene and Nynaeve, and it's perfect because, like, it's the Amyrlin is wanting to talk to Nynaeve and Egwene because they are part of it, and she needs Elaine out of the room. But then Egwene tries to defend Elaine and ends up getting caught up in this thing, and she ends up getting, escorted out of the kitchens for kind of, talking back, basically. So this plan was, smart from the Amyrlin Seat, and then the Amyrlin Seat ends up only meeting with Nynaeve and having this discussion with her instead, which was humorous. But she does, let her know that there was another gray man found. He's found in Shiriam's bed. He was already dead. And that's when we learned that she never sent Elsa to the girls to go look at the storeroom and find anything out about it, and that Elsa was sent home 10 days ago, which is interesting. So, which also concerns Nynaeve, because now Nynaeve is realizing that people can, manipulate their appearance to look like somebody else. Which is I obviously can't blame her for being concerned about this, because you never know who you're talking to then either. You don't know who you can trust, and you don't know if you're talking to the actual person or not.
Right.
At that point. But she does make the decision in this conversation. She's not going to mention that Egwene went into the world of dreams. She's going to keep that to herself. So everyone is kind of working together, but also keeping things to themselves. And she does learn, she ends up asking about Calendor and learns from the Amyrlin Seat that it is a sawing reel. So we get a little bit more of information, and then they
what's a sangreal? What did I just
Calendor?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No, you're right. I'm just being dumb. Continue.
But then they decide that they are going to leave. I think it's within the next day, or they're basically going to leave immediately and get out of the city. And that's it. That's the chapter.
So we've stayed in the White Tower long enough. It's time to get out.
It's time to go. Get out of here. And see if anyone creepy follows you, I guess. I
just cringe so hard. Like, it's like if you or I were just randomly recruited by some, like in a movie, some spy
Mhm.
movie, and they're like, hey, you're literally our only chance to catch a serial killer.
Right.
Like you're entirely inexperienced. Like maybe like a couple small like incidental things that might help you a tiny bit, but at the
Mhm.
same time, like there are people who are professionals at all this stuff that you're doing, and you're trying to get one up on these guys. Good luck, and we can't really support you that much. Like, and if they catch you, you're probably screwed.
And also, like, not only that, we need you to catch them, but there are probably others around you, and we don't know who they are.
Right. Well, yeah, there were two, maybe three of you, and
Mhm.
there are at least 13 that we know of. And we've already, and then like you and I do the logic. We're like, oh, actually, there's almost certainly like a ton of them also just surrounding us.
Yeah.
And they
Eh,
can change their appearance.
yep. No big deal. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I'd be like, you know what?
I'm going home.
Yeah. Except who knows how many people at home are dark friends.
Think I'm gonna go be a hermit and live by myself.
Go ahead. I'd see how you do.
Not well.
I think I do pretty well, actually. If
Uh,
I didn't have my boys, I need my boys. So,
mhm.
anyways.
Okay, so who would you think is the Mac in this section? These
Uh,
chapters? I don't know.
I think Nynaeve.
Yeah,
She's such a grump, man.
she's
She
a grump.
grates on me.
I find it funny. Can I just say that she is irritated with Varen's notes and all this, and like, this knowledge that's kind of
Mhm.
being shared with them, and she was the wisdom. It's just it's just interesting to me that she would be irritated by this. I feel like she would embrace this,
Embrace what exactly?
embrace like extra information.
Oh, gotcha.
Mhm.
Well, and she's just dismissing it as useless. She's like, no, like that her line with T Elaine, she's like, oh, do you really think you could find something that I didn't find in it?
Mhm.
And Elaine's like, yeah, actually, here's this really important thing. And Nynaeve's like, oh, whoa, whoa. Like,
Yeah.
okay, good. I don't know.
I
Just grates
honestly,
on me, man.
she's stubborn and it's annoying, and it is a very big hindrance to her for that exact reason. Like exactly like that example you just showed, where her stubbornness and unwillingness to just kind of embrace what's going on and look at it with an open mind makes her miss things.
Yeah, I think, and it's like how stubborn can you afford to be
Mhm.
in this crazy situation trying to catch the Black Aja, who you know almost nothing about it. Like they don't even know how to shield someone. They talk about that at some point of like, we could, you might be as strong as any sister night right now, Nynaeve, but like you can't even channel when you're not angry, and you don't even know how to, like, if you had to fight a sister who was weaker than you, you'd still lose because you don't know crap.
Right.
Like, and Nynaeve's like, oh, oh, whatever, I'm better for some reason. I know better.
Right. Exactly. All right. Then I'm going to put Nynaeve down because I don't think anyone else would really be classified as annoying in these chapters. Everyone seems to be helpful. We're learning some things, moving
Yeah,
forward.
like you don't like Elida, but she's not really in that many chapters. She's not like a
Right.
main. Yeah, and Matt is obviously too awesome to count as the Mac here.
Okay. So then who would you say is the most sus?
Okay, so this is something that you are going to have to be the one to answer most of the time,
Okay.
frankly, because
You
because
know all the outcomes, so you can't say who's sus.
right, like there are people here in this range of chapters that
Mhm.
I can 100% say are extremely sus, but
like Elsa slash, so you know, the lady that we don't know is Celine but feel is Celine. Super sus.
Yeah.
Real sus.
So
That's the thing
say
that I like was hyper focused on, was that whole interaction.
yeah. Well, yeah, and then they clearly like they led the girls down to this place to find evidence, like obvious evidence that they're in terror. And
okay, the other thing that is sus in this chunk of chapters is that there was another gray man found he was found dead in Shiriam's bed, and Shiriam was there when the first gray man that we interacted with was, so that's a little sus too.
I agree.
Seems.
I was wondering if you were gonna. I was wondering if you're gonna say that.
Can I have two? Can I say her and the Elsa slash Celine thing? I don't know which one I would feel is more sus, but they're both sus.
Can we call her Celelsa?
No, we can't, because we can't say it. So Elsa and Shiriam, both sus. I don't know which one is more. Elsa is more obvious. And then, yeah, anyway, that's all.
Celine.
Celine.
Sounds like Celine. Like,
it does.
Like in Spanish.
Celine. Yeah, so, yeah. Anyway, those are my picks.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Aes Sedai who really only care about Galad and his well-being over Matt being awesome. Like, what the hell? You've got this really awesome character. Like,
is that also the most annoying character for you as well?
Yeah, it's Galad, because he thought he could pick a fight. No, I'm not quite. I'm very curious, actually. I'll try my best to keep an open mind of there are probably going to be some times that Matt deserves to be the Mac, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Most annoying character, I will see how many times I am willing to agree with that. So especially now that you've got his storyline starting. Oh, yeah, like the previous two books for sure, but now, yeah, like, is he going to be the Mac? Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
Stay tuned, folks.
So next week we will do chapters 30 to 39. So the next 10 as well.
Okay, that sounds great.
Cool. Any other tidbits, fun facts, Matt loving you want to add?
Yeah. So looking forward to the next section, because it has a bunch of Matt in it.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Cool. So thank you everybody for listening, and may you always find water and shade.
Yeah. And if you don't have enough shade, Sarah is always happy to throw some your way.
Yes, I am.
She's equipped.
Awesome. Thanks.